Hi, I'm Michael from ETS, and welcome to Inside the TOEFL Test. Today, we're going inside the speaking section, specifically questions 3 and 5, the integrated speaking questions about campus situations. So in the next few minutes, we're going to look at how the questions are structured and what they're asking, how to approach the questions, how your responses are scored. We'll look at a sample response that received a high score, and we'll give you some tips for improving your speaking skills. So here is generally what the questions will look like and how they're structured. In question 3, you will read a passage about a campus-related topic. Then you will listen to a response to that topic. Then you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak your answer. For question 5, you listen to part of a conversation, then you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak your answer. Now let's look more closely at what these campus situations questions look like and what they will be asking you to do. For question 3, where you have both reading and listening passages, you will be asked what the opinion is of a speaker in the listening passage. And you'll need to explain how that person's opinion relates to the issues presented in the reading passage. So you're essentially summarizing and combining information from two sources. Here's an example of this type of question. This one is about the student government's decision to buy a new sound system.
What else is there to do on campus?
What do you mean?
I mean, there isn't much to do on campus besides go to the movies. If there were other forms of recreation or other social activities, you know, I don't think most students would have said that going to the movies was their first choice.
The man expresses his opinion of the Student Association's recent purchase. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
For question 5, where the listening passage is a conversation about a campus problem and one or more solutions, you will need to describe the problem and then give your opinion about what the solution should be. Here's the example of question 5 about tutors and study groups.
Another option, I guess, is to form a study group with other students. That won't cost you any money.
That's a thought. Although once I was in a study group, and it was a big waste of time. We usually ended up talking about other stuff, like what we did over the weekend.
But that was for a different class, right? I've actually had some pretty good experiences with study groups. Usually students in the same class have different strengths and weaknesses with the material. If they're serious about studying, they can really help each other out. Think about it.
Briefly summarize the problem the speakers are discussing, then state which solution you would recommend. Explain the reasons for your recommendation.
Now here are some tips for how to approach these kinds of speaking questions. Number 1, be careful not to speak too quickly, because this might make it difficult for the rater to understand you. The questions are designed so that if you speak at a normal pace, you will have enough time to give a complete response. And you'll get better at this if you time yourself when you practice. Number 2, in question 3, where you have the reading passage, then the conversation between two speakers, listen carefully to the speaker's reasons for agreeing or disagreeing with points made in the reading. Then make sure you summarize the opinion of the speaker in your answer. Number 3, for question 5, as you listen, focus on identifying and understanding what the problem and possible solutions are, and then write down a few key words or ideas on your scratch paper. But remember, you need to do more than summarize in your response. You also need to give your opinion. So don't spend too much time summarizing. Use most of your time explaining why it is the best solution. Before the test, make sure you understand what the raters are looking for and how the questions are scored. In the speaking section, all 6 responses are scored on a scale from 0 to 4, and they're scored holistically, which means that the raters listen for various features in your response and then give it an overall score. Although there are some variations depending on the question, raters will be looking for 3 main things. First, delivery. Your speech needs to be clear and fluid, with good pronunciation. The pace or speed of your speech should be natural, and you should have good-sounding intonation patterns. Second, language use. This is mainly how you use grammar and vocabulary to express your ideas. And third, topic development. This is mainly how fully you answer the question, how clearly you express your ideas, and how you can connect one idea to the next in a way that is easy to follow. Now let's listen to an example of a speaking response that received a score of 3 on a 4-point scale. This one is responding to question 5 about tutors and study groups.
The man has a problem that he takes a calculus class, but he does not do well in the calculus, so he's worried about the final. There are two possible solutions, and the first one is get the tutoring program, and the second solution is to form a study group. I think that the second solution is better than the first one for several reasons. First reason is that study group does not need money, but still get help. Also, students in the study group take the same class, so they can explain each other what the lecturer said about. Finally, if students concentrate on the study group, they can improve their grades at final exam because they can talk about the class content.
Now let's look at this response in terms of our 3 main criteria: delivery, language use, and topic development. First, delivery. The speaker is generally easy to understand, with good pronunciation and pacing, so she gets a good score for delivery.
He does not do well in the calculus, so he's worried about the final. The other two.
But language use is another story. We can't give this response a 4 out of 4, mainly because of her imprecise use of language. One example is when she says this:
Study group does not need money, but still get help. Also,
This could have been much more precise by saying, for example, students can get help from a study group without spending money.
they can explain each other.
Topic development is actually quite good in this response. She communicates the important information in a clear and coherent way by stating the man's problem and efficiently summarizing the 2 proposed solutions.
I think that the second solution is better than the first one for several reasons. First reason is
And she explains the reasons for her preference in terms of the advantages of study groups. Basically, that they are both free and helpful. So overall, this meets all the criteria for a score of 3 out of 4. For more details about how the integrated speaking responses are scored, see the speaking scoring guides on the TOEFL website. Now here are some activities that can help you build your skills for the integrated speaking tasks, especially numbers 3 and 5 about campus situations. 1. Find an online newspaper from an English-speaking university. This will be a good source of practice topics for questions 3 and 5. Look for topics like admissions, housing, student activities, registering for classes, school improvement plans, sports, and more. Then choose an article to discuss with your speaking partner or study group. 2. Record yourself when you practice and listen to how you speak. When you listen to yourself, you'll be able to hear some of your mistakes, as well as your tone and pacing. 3. Find listening and reading material that are both about the same topic. The material can contain similar or different views. Then prepare an outline of a 1-minute response that includes your opinion, 2 points to support your opinion, and 1 detail or reason to support each point. 4. Practice improving your fluency. So take that 1-minute presentation and deliver it a few times. And each time, try to improve it a little bit. Smooth out your phrasing. Use different wording for the same ideas. Avoid unnecessary pauses. Use transition words. Those kinds of things. There are lots of ways to improve your English skills. Whatever you do, keep practicing. And good luck on your TOEFL test. I'm Michael from ETS, and welcome to Inside the TOEFL Test. Today, we're going inside the speaking section, specifically questions 4 and 6, the integrated speaking questions about academic courses. So in the next few minutes, we're going to look at how the questions are structured and what they're asking, how to approach the questions, how your responses are scored. We'll look at a sample response that received a high score, and we'll give you some tips for improving your speaking skills. So here is generally what the questions will look like and how they're structured. In question 4, you will read a passage about an academic subject. Then you will listen to part of a lecture on that same subject. You'll have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak your answer. For question 6, you listen to part of a lecture, then you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak your answer, which will always be a summary of the lecture. Now let's look more closely at what these academic courses questions look like and what they will be asking you to do. For question 4, the reading passage will always be about an important academic term or concept that might be found in a first-year college textbook. For example, a science reading might explain what a keystone species is. A reading from psychology might describe what is meant by emotional intelligence. In this example, the passage is about flow. The listening passage will be from part of a lecture about the same topic as the reading passage.
I think this will help you get a picture of what your textbook is describing.
In the lecture, you will hear details about an example of the term or concept.
I remember passing by a classroom early one morning just as he was leaving, and he looked terrible. His clothes were all rumpled, and he looked like he hadn't slept all night. And I asked if he was okay. I was surprised when he said that he never felt better, that he was totally happy. He had spent the entire night in the classroom working on a mathematics puzzle. He didn't stop to eat dinner. He didn't stop to sleep. So he worked furiously all night and covered the blackboards in the classroom with equations and numbers and never realized that time was passing by.
Then, when you answer the question, you will speak about how the example supports or illustrates the term or concept, like in this question about flow.
Explain flow and how the example used by the professor illustrates the concept.
For question 6, the listening passage is an excerpt from an academic lecture on a single topic. Usually it starts with the professor either defining a concept or highlighting an issue.
Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally
Then it will have examples that help explain or clarify the issue.
Naturally in the wild. And in fact, there are two competing definitions, a narrow definition.
The question will ask you to explain the main concept or issue using the points and examples that were given in the lecture. So basically, it's a very straightforward summary. Here's the example of question 6 about tools.
Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor.
Now here are some tips for how to approach these kinds of speaking questions. Number 1, the topics for these questions can be from a variety of fields: life science, social science, physical science, history, art, literature. And although it's important that you practice with academic texts, the questions are designed so that you don't need any prior knowledge in a specific field to answer the question. In other words, even though a question is about an academic topic, ultimately it's not testing your knowledge of that topic. It's testing your English. Number 2, you're allowed to take notes during the test. So during the listening passages, write down a few key words or ideas on your scratch paper. Then use the preparation time to review your notes and prepare your response. Number 3, if you finish your response before time runs out, don't just repeat yourself to fill the remaining time. Say something that clarifies, develops, or elaborates on your response. Practice timing yourself so that you get used to the amount of time you have to answer a question. Before the test, make sure you understand what the raters are looking for and how the questions are scored. In the speaking section, all 6 responses are scored on a scale from 0 to 4, and they're scored holistically, which means that the raters listen for various features in your response and then give it an overall score. Although there are some variations depending on the question, raters will be looking for three main things. First, delivery. Your speech needs to be clear and fluid, with good pronunciation. The pace or speed of your speech should be natural, and you should have good-sounding intonation patterns. Second, language use. This is mainly how you use grammar and vocabulary to express your ideas. And third, topic development. This is mainly how fully you answer the question, how clearly you express your ideas, and how you can connect one idea to the next in a way that is easy to follow. Now let's listen to an example of a speaking response that received a score of 3 on a 4-point scale. This one is responding to the same question 4 about flow.
Passage is talking about the general information about the flow, and the professor illustrates the example of that. And he said he met a friend who taught physics, and a few years ago he accidentally met his friend, and he found that his friend's clothes were all rumpled, and he asked him he's okay, and he said the friend said he's so concentrated on the mathematic puzzle that he didn't sleep or rest, and also he didn't actually eat. And actually he thinks that his friend came across to the mathematic puzzle, and he couldn't realize that the time was passing by, and his friend actually was in the flow.
Now let's look at this response in terms of our three main criteria: delivery, language use, and topic development. The speaker's delivery is generally very clear, with good pronunciation.
Passage is talking about the general information about the flow, and the professor illustrates the example of that.
And while his pacing is often very good, sometimes his speech is a little choppy, and there are some hesitations that interrupt the flow of the speech.
And he said he met a friend who taught physics.
In terms of language use, his vocabulary and grammar are both solid, so no major issues there.
So concentrated on the mathematic puzzle that he didn't sleep or rest.
For topic development, although he does give an accurate summary of the professor's example about his friend who spent the whole night working on a mathematics puzzle, he never really explains what flow is. And that's the first part of the question.
Explain flow.
So he needed to do that, then explain how the example illustrated the concept. So overall, this meets all the criteria for a score of 3 out of 4. For more details about how the integrated speaking responses are scored, see the speaking scoring guides on the TOEFL website. Here are some activities that can help you build your skills for the integrated speaking tasks, especially numbers 4 and 6 about academic courses. 1. Develop your academic vocabulary. You should be reading academic texts for practice, so keep a list of important new words that you find and practice pronouncing them. 2. Read a short news article, then record yourself summarizing it. Then create a transcript of the recording by writing down exactly what you said. Then review the transcript and think of other ways of saying the same thing. 3. Find textbooks in English that include study questions at the end of each chapter and practice answering the questions out loud. Start with subjects you're familiar with and then move on to less familiar subjects. 4. If you're recording yourself, collect your recordings in an audio journal. Ask your English teacher to evaluate your recordings using the TOEFL speaking rubrics. There are lots of ways to improve your English skills. Whatever you do, keep practicing. And good luck on your TOEFL test.
section tests your ability to speak about various subjects. There are 6 tasks in this section. Listen carefully to the directions and read the questions on the screen. The first 2 tasks are independent speaking tasks. You have 15 seconds in which to prepare your response. When you hear a beep on the listening program, you will have 45 seconds in which to answer the question. The last 4 tasks are integrated speaking tasks. The third and fourth questions involve a reading text and a listening passage. You will have 45 seconds in which to read a short text. You will then hear a short conversation or part of a lecture on the same topic. You may take notes on both the reading and listening passage. You will then see a question on the screen asking about the information that you have just read and heard, and you will have 30 seconds in which to plan a response. When you hear a beep on the listening program, you will have 60 seconds in which to answer the question. The fifth and sixth questions involve a short listening passage. You may take notes as you listen. After listening to the conversation or lecture, you will see a question and you will have 20 seconds in which to plan your response. When you hear a beep on the listening program, you will have 60 seconds in which to answer the question. On an actual test, a clock on the screen will tell you how much preparation time or how much response time remains for each question. Your responses will be recorded and evaluated by trained raters. Now, get ready to answer the question. Question 1.
Describe a skill you have that will be important for your success in the modern world, and explain why this skill is so important. Include details and examples to support your explanation. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Question 2.
Some people work for a business, and some people work in their own business. Which would you prefer to do, and why? Include details and examples in your explanation. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Question 3.
The University of the Rockies Financial Aid Office has posted information about work-study grants. You will have 45 seconds to read the announcement. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students as they discuss the announcement.
Hey, do you know anything about the work-study program?
A bit. You know that guy, Jim,
Uh-huh.
in our philosophy class? Well, he got a grant. You have to fill in papers about your financial needs, and then you're allotted an amount of money that you can earn and told how much you get per hour.
Oh, do you know how much he was paid?
He was allotted the full amount. You know, Jim's from a big family, so money's tight.
Uh-huh. Hey, I heard there's an opening in the astronomy department. That would give me some good job experience. You applying for something?
Well, it'd be nice to get some job experience and be able to work on campus, but I'm not eligible. You have to really need financial aid. And between my summer job and my parents helping me out, well...
Oh, you know what? I earned some money last summer. I wonder if I'll qualify.
Maybe not for the full amount. Why don't you just go fill out the financial needs assessment form and find out? No harm in trying.
The woman expresses her desire for a work-study job. State the requirements necessary for taking part in the program and explain the advantages discussed. Please begin speaking after the beep.